Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from the Telesur Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. We begin in Egypt, where former President Mohamed Morsi has died after fainting in a courtroom. According to a state TV in Egypt, Morsi collapsed inside a court where he was facing charges of espionage, denying shortly afterwards. He was 67 years old and had been ousted by the military in 2013 after protests against his rule. Morsi was a senior figure in the Muslim Brotherhood.
Mohamed Morsi al-Ayad passed away during the espionage court hearing. The deceased asked the judge to speak. He was permitted, and after the session, he was adjourned and his body has been moved to the hospital and the necessary procedures be taken.
And the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has lamented the death of former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi. Erdogan was the first world leader to pay tribute to Egypt's former president, calling Morsi a martyr and offering condolences to his family. The Turkish president fiercely criticized Western silence following the 2013 coup that ousted Morsi from power. 3 British members of parliament had previously warned that the conditions that former president was kept in could result in his premature death.
In our eyes, Morsi is a martyr who lost his life while he fought for the cause he believed in. History will never forget the tyrants who put him in prison, threatened him with death penalty, and caused his martyrdom. We formed a close friendship with him before he was elected president and preserved it afterwards. Morsi, who was put on trial by a court established by the coup, which sentenced him to death, gave his last breath in a courtroom, and this is a symbol of the cruelty inflicted upon him and his people for years.
Iran has announced it will pass the limit set under the 2015 nuclear deal on its stockpile of enriched uranium on June 27. Iran Atomic Energy Agency says they've quadrupled production of the mineral material, which is used to make reactor fuel and potentially nuclear weapons. Nonetheless, authorities added that there's still time for European countries to uphold the deal by protecting Iran from reinstated U.S. sanctions. The deal required Iran to curb its uranium enrichment capacity in return for the removal of most international sanctions.
From the 27th of June, we will bypass the 300 kilograms limit for enrichment. We will not only bypass this limit, but the production levels will increase significantly. Once we bypass the limit, we will also be able to increase the rate of low uranium enrichment at the level of 3.67.
And Iran has accused Saudi Arabia of adopting misguided approach and escalating tensions in the Gulf region. Tehran said that its local rival has opted for a militaristic crisis-based approach and that is seeking to escape problems brought on by its own wrong policies. Riyadh has stepped up its rhetoric against Iran and has been backed by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, after an attack on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman last week. Despite assertions from the White House that Iran was responsible for the attack, many of Washington's allies remain skeptical. And now we move on to Yemen. United Nations officials have urged for new efforts to bring the conflict in Yemen to an end. The Saudi-led invasion of Yemen in 2015 caused what has been described as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. A ceasefire between the Houthi movement and the Saudi-backed Yemeni government, brokered in Sweden late 2018, has reduced civilian death by 68% when comparing June with last December. The special envoy of the Secretary General addressed the Security Council by video link, saying that a solution must be found.
The longer the conflict goes on, the more challenges and the greater difficulties we will face in resolving it and reversing its terrible effect on the people of Yemen. The continued dialogue between the parties to implement the Stockholm Agreement is significant, but it is not enough for the Yemeni people. They want their suffering to end now and not tomorrow.
Now we move on from topic. Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to start a two-day visit to North Korea on Thursday. This will be the first visit to a Chinese head of a state to the North Korean country in 14 years. The leaders are scheduled to exchange views on the situation in the Korean peninsula and push for new resolution on it. The countries have been working to improve relations over the past year after Beijing decided to back a series of UN sanctions against Pyongyang over its nuclear activities. The visit comes on the occasion of the 17th anniversary of the establishment of China and North Korea diplomatic ties. And in China, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake has hit southwest China, killing at least 12 people and injuring more than 120. The earthquake hit China's Sichuan province at around 11 p.m. local time. Emergency response teams have been deployed to provide disaster relief, including the delivery of 5,000 tents, 10,000 folding beds, and necessary food and medication. The injured have been taken to hospitals, and no survivors in critical conditions have been reported so far. In India, at least 60 people have died in northeast India from a heat stroke over the weekend. Hospitals were full of patients suffering from heat exhaustion in the region of Bihar as temperatures soared to over 45 degrees Celsius over the weekend. The regional government has ordered all schools to be closed until June 22nd due to the intense heat. India typically suffers from water scarcity during the summer months, but this year the situation is much worse due to the less than normal rainfall in the 2018 monsoon region. And now we talk about the visit Colombia President Iván Duque is doing to United Kingdom, because when he arrived on his official visit, he was received by protesters outside the Colombian embassy in London.
Asesino, 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 asesino.
As we are hearing, protesters shouted "Murder" at Duque as he entered the embassy before he set off to meet with outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May. Duque has objected several parts of the 2016 peace agreement, and the death toll of social leaders in Colombia rises every day. Protesters held signs with the names of hundreds of social leaders that have been killed so far in this year 2019 in Colombia. And now we go to Canada, where 4 people have reportedly been shot in Toronto near the parade celebrating the Toronto Raptors basketball team 2019 NBA championship. The Toronto police confirmed the shooting took place at Nathan Phillips Square around 4 in the afternoon local time. Authorities arrested 2 people with firearms, and medical personnel attended the injured. Footage on social media showed hundreds of people running to safety as over 1 million celebrated on the streets. Time for a first break here from the South. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account, as you have seen it, at Laura Pitelesur. Stay with us. back with more news after seeing information from around the world. Now we go to Latin America. The Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said his country could win a trade war with the United States, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Earlier this month, Mexico and the United States struck a deal under which the Trump administration wouldn't introduce tariffs on imported Mexican goods, and under a joint declaration, Mexico agreed to send 6,000 troops to its border with Guatemala to curb irregular migration. Meanwhile, the United States will return asylum seekers trying to cross the border to Mexico, where they will stay until their cases are judged. And from Mexico, we go on to Peru, where prosecutor's office has requested for almost 17 years of prison for former President Alejandro Toledo for alleged money laundering. Toledo, who served as Peru's president between 2001 and 2006, is under trial for money laundering through real estate purchases in the so-called Escoteva case. The court has renewed a request to extradite Toledo from the United States, where he reportedly lives. This latest case is also linked to Operation Car Wash, under which Toledo is already facing trial for receiving bribes from Brazilian construction company Odebrecht. And authorities have reportedly managed to restore power following a massive outage that left tens of millions in Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay without electricity. Our correspondent in Asunción, Paraguay, Osvaldo Sayas, has the information, the report. Next, welcome Osvaldo.
Greetings from Asunción, Paraguay. Yesterday, the South American country was affected by the massive power outage in Argentina, which affected several provinces in the country and all of Uruguay. In Paraguay, the two departments of Genbocu and Misiones were affected, as was reported by the National Administration of Electricity. Several districts of these departments were left without electricity for around half an hour. On the other hand, the drama of the floods continues. Only in Asunción, 13,000 are still living in shelters due to the rising water in the Paraguayan River. The Department of Medical Emergencies, as well as the municipality of Asunción, have around 100 shelters where families are living due to this problem. The National Department of Meteorology reports a significant decrease in the level of the river and is now at the level it was at 1 month ago. However, this decrease and projection does not allow the families to return to their homes. Other departments are also affected by the rising of the rivers, the main ones being the Paraná and the Paraguay rivers. Some of these departments are under a 90-day emergency declaration. So, according to authorities, although the rivers are returning to their levels, families cannot go back to their homes to carry out their normal life. This is all we have from here. Back to the studios.
Thank you, Osvaldo. And we stay in Paraguay because 10 prisoners have been killed in Paraguay and another 10 were injured during a riot in the San Pedro prison. Authorities say a fight broke out between two criminal groups, the First Command of the capital and the Rotela clan, lasting for 3 hours. After the incident, the Paraguayan Justice Minister Julio Javier Rios dismissed the director of the prison. The minister said frequent irregularities contributed to the riot. And now we move on to Venezuela, where Minister of Communication Jorge Rodriguez held a press conference releasing new evidence regarding corruption by the Venezuelan opposition. Rodriguez demonstrated screenshots of WhatsApp messages between Juan Guaidó, Leopoldo López and other opposition figures, implicating them in a series of acts of corruption. The minister said that the situation has become so grave that even the media, which is typically pitted against the government, has recognized the criminal activity. This includes the financing of destabilization attempts from Colombia. The government says that the intention was never to provide humanitarian aid.
Where are the $3 million of the Venezuela aid concert? Where are they? A tweet was published about that. Juan Guaidó directly pocketed that money. There's a lot of evidence in which Juan Guaido personally asked for that money, those $3 million. Remember, they were going to bring together $150 million, that multimillionaire English imbecile. But in the end, it was just $3 million. And they left all those workers who helped them with the stage and the sound, etc. They were never paid because they didn't use those $3 million to pay the people. A right-wing extremist says here, confirmed, the payment of the 2020 bonuses constitutes the first mega guiso corruption of Guaido's administration. This was said by the terrorist Robert Alonso. Calderón Berti, go and look for the blank check that you left at the hotel in Cucuta. Go and look for it because it's a crime to issue a blank check. We have here what was posted on the Pan Am Post Spanish website with all of the forged and inflated invoices.
And now we move on to El Salvador, where the FMLN party held international elections on Sunday to choose new party leaders. More details on the following story.
Former President of El Salvador, Oscar Ortiz, was one of the candidates who ran for the position of Party Secretary General. His campaign message focused on reviving the FMLN party in the face of poor results in the previous elections. He called his campaign message the agenda for real change.
To
not only recover, but to strengthen, integrate, energize, unify, and generate an FMLN that is much more connected to the family, community, and grassroots. An FMLN that is much more open, much more inclusive. An FMLN that reconquer the work with young people.
Party members were able to cast their votes in the 267 polling stations that were open throughout the country in 262 municipalities.
We have had reports from the 14 departments. There is a great influx of voters. That is important for us, to emphasize that there is a lot of combativity, a lot of joy, a lot of enthusiasm, and it is worth highlighting for those who consider that the FMLN is dead. We are more alive and red than ever.
Voting began at 8 a.m. and the polls closed at 4 p.m. In these 8 hours, members of the FMLN sought to give a new pulse to the party, with focus not only on giving the party a new direction, but also on generational change in leadership, which was demonstrated by an increase in the number of candidates running for political office for the first time.
A new leadership that is going to be renewed by 60 to 70%, not only with young people, but also with many women, many revolutionaries of different generations, and other comrades who have returned to register. That is to say, a recomposition is being made, but with a cause.
This year's election was tightly contested, and for the first time in history, there was a female candidate running for the position of Secretary General. The Electoral Commission was expected to announce the victorious candidate for the position of party's Secretary General by Sunday evening. The results for the other positions are expected to be announced in the coming days.
With these images, we go to a second and very short break. Stay tuned. Back with the news, at least 30 people have been killed in a Swiss triple suicide bombing in northeast Nigeria as they were watching a televised football match. Another 40 have been injured according to officials. The winner of the hull prevented one of the bombers from entering their back venue just before he blew himself up. Two other bombers who had mingled among the crowd at a tea stall nearby then also set off their suicide vests. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack yet. And talks are underway in Haiti between President Jovenel Moïse and representatives from various sectors in an effort to find a solution to the ongoing political crisis in the nation. These discussions are expected to pave the way for a national dialogue. Representatives of trade unions as well as persons from religious, academic and civil society sectors are attending the meeting. However, some organizations, such as the Haitian People's Sector, declined the president's invitation, noting that the key opposition members were left out of the talks. On Saturday, the Caribbean community CARICOM called on all political stakeholders in Haiti to act responsibly following deadly protests aimed at forcing President Jovenel Moïse out of office. And now to Guyana, that because they have received $80 million in aid to help set up a number of mega solar farms. This is part of the $250 million deal Guyana signed with Norway in 2009 to preserve the South American nation Amazon rainforest. The money will be used to provide at least 30 megawatts of solar power, which already generates electricity for dozens of indigenous communities in Guyana. The country is trying to reduce its dependence on fossil fuels, although it will likely become an oil producer by 2020, following recent discoveries of large quantities of oil and gas.
I'm quite pleased to say that the UAE fund funding has been approved, and then with that funding we are seeking to make Wakenham one of the first totally green off-grid centers. That will be a hybrid system.
And the St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister Timothy Harris has held bilateral talks with Jamaican counterpart Andrew Holness. The two Caribbean leaders also addressed a number of matters of regional importance. The brief discussions were held while Prime Minister Harris was on an official visit to Jamaica. Also, Harris signed condolence books in honor of former Prime Minister Edward Seaga. And Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez's next stop of his official tour around the Caribbean, which began a week ago, was Barbados. The top diplomat took to Twitter to post about his meeting with the Governor-General of Barbados, Sandra Mason. Activities this Monday started early in the day when Rodriguez paid tribute at the monument that remembers the victims of the terrorist attack on a Cubana Air Flight 455 that crashed into Barbadian waters and claimed the lives of 73 innocent people in 1976. He also met in the afternoon with Prime Minister Mia Mottley. With this information, we come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and much more other stories on our website. As you are seeing it, telesurenglish.net, where you can find opinion articles, watch special interviews, and find much more information that we have produced especially for you. As we say, you can always continue with us with Telesur, connecting the global south. Until next time, thank you for watching.